Hey everyone, Robert here, author of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life. Are you ready to start living your life to the fullest? Are you ready and willing to transform yourself and your life from ordinary to extraordinary? Welcome, my friends, to the Fully Engaged Life. Welcome back to the show, everyone, and welcome to the fifth installment of this new series entitled, What the Heck is Meant By? In today's episode, we're going to take a look at what the heck is meant by living fully engaged. Yes, you knew we had to do it. But before I begin the new topic, I hope the previous episode covering the idea of conscious awareness and what that may mean offered you a bit of fresh perspective, or at least something to consider. Maybe even challenge your current beliefs a bit, or at least give you a slightly better understanding for what it is we attempt to describe through the term conscious awareness. It's very difficult to put that into words and have it be a true meaning because there are no words to truly convey it. And let's be honest, no one really knows exactly what conscious awareness is because the human mind is not capable of comprehending it. So I simply did the best I can, and I hope that helped you. I know for some people it challenged what you want to believe or the way you want things to be in order to feel comfortable, but this is the best assessment that I have from all of the spiritual training that I've been through in the past 40 years, as well as my own personal experiences with these various practices and systems, and two death experiences where I was able to actually experience this directly. And as I always say, don't be in a hurry to just agree with what I say until you've been able to experience it directly for yourself in whatever capacity you're capable. Okay, back to the topic at hand. Let's begin by looking at what living a fully engaged life or living fully engaged is not, so that we can better understand what it is. It is not being hedonistic and living a life of desires and various extreme indulgences, nor is it about living a life of greed or materialism where you are so attached to what you can accumulate regarding material items. Okay? It's none of that. It's not just paying more attention to things in your life, nor is it about shunning our responsibilities or our maturity and living life as an adult child. Likewise, when we are living fully engaged, we do not succumb to distractions. We are not consumed through the constant need for mental entertainment through drama, various forms of entertainment, or even social media. When you are engaged in those types of activities, you are doing the opposite of living a fully engaged life. All right, now let's get to what living fully engaged actually is. And I'd like to begin by looking at the difference between living fully engaged and living life to the fullest. Because a lot of people have this confusion. This is probably one of the greatest areas of confusion in what is meant by living fully engaged. So first, let's recognize that these are not opposing concepts, but rather complementary. They're not the same, but they complement each other. Okay? Many people are capable of living life to the fullest. but very few people are capable of ever living fully engaged. We can live life to the fullest by daring to have adventures, traveling, becoming very interactive with the world, and taking various risks, such as to do with our finances or even love. One can live life to the fullest through all of those things and so much more. And that is fantastic. Life is short. Don't you think it's meant to be enjoyed? Of course it is. And that's one of the things that fuels our expansion. No one has ever been capable of living life to the fullest by cowering in their home because they're too afraid to interact with the world or denying themselves great experiences. Nor have they been capable of living their life to the fullest while living in somebody's basement, wasting their life away on the internet or playing video games. So it's important for us to understand that living life to the fullest is part of living a fully engaged life. However, it does not mean that you are living a fully engaged life. If we look at it this way, when we are living fully engaged, we are living life to the fullest. However, if we flip that, when we are living life to the fullest, that doesn't mean that we are capable of living fully engaged. In this way, we can see that these are two different concepts, and it's easy to understand how they can become confused with one another. So yes, we want that aspect of living life to the fullest. We want the adventures, the travel, the exciting experiences. We want to be able to get out in the world and interact with people and places and enjoy the experience that this life has to offer. Now, the most important factor, however, is to understand how to live fully engaged. And this is what my book and this podcast are actually about. In order to do this, in order to live fully engaged, we must successfully engage in mental and spiritual practices that allow us to attain the states of being, such as mindfulness and awakening. Living fully engaged is not just some catchy phrase or some buzzword. It is actually a spiritual term that is used in many spiritual systems, and it's regarding something very specific, and that's what I'm explaining to you right now. And once again, I have to state that the main problem that we face today as a people, humanity all over the world, is that our mind has reached a place where we falsely believe, that anything we think, any definition we assign to something must be right, that we automatically understand it. I have many people that I teach the mindfulness to and various forms of mind science and spirituality, and clients that I work with on this, and it's very interesting when I try to explain what something spiritual is or what a state of mindfulness is when I'm referring to something in particular, and their minds automatically jump to associate their own past experiences, which are not even close, not the same thing as what is being described, and yet they like to believe, oh, I already do that. Oh, I do some of that already. Oh, that's just like I do with this or that, and it's not the same. This is a very dangerous habit that the human mind has fallen victim to. The ego is always quick to jump to the fact that it already knows or already does something that has the potential to threaten it. So then we understand that to live fully engaged, we have to have successfully accomplished certain states of being. And these states of being are attained through all of the actual authentic practices of such things as mindfulness, meditative practices, and meditation in order to attain various states of awakening. So if we do the math here, it's pretty simple. If we are not engaging in these practices, then we are not attaining those states, such as mindfulness. If we are not attaining those states, they don't just happen automatically on their own by some fluke. We must go through the practices. There is no shortcut. Then and only then will we become capable of living fully engaged. Living mindfully is the foundation of living fully engaged. This is the essential point we must grasp. You must achieve a particular state through the specific practices allowing you to be mindful and no longer identifying with your thoughts or your ego. So, for all those people who are misguided and buying into this new, twisted, New Age movement of embracing the ego, that is just natural, it's supposed to be there, we're supposed to have it and love it as part of ourself, you will never attain mindfulness, awakening, nor the ability to live fully engaged. And indeed, the resistance to practices that will allow us to step away from the mind and dissolve the ego are being resisted by our own ego. The stronger the resistance, the stronger your ego is and the greater hold it has on you. Now, the more awakened that you become, the more fully engaged you may live. Now, for the record, I'm not claiming to be awakened here. I'm explaining to you what living fully engaged is. Living fully engaged is when you have accepted full responsibility for every facet of your life, understanding that you are actually creating your life with every single thought, every emotion, and every vibration that you produce. When you accept this power, and it is a power, you also learn how to use it. You learn how to actively attract and co-create the life you desire to experience. This is actually quite spiritual because it requires a heightened sense of being in order to accomplish. It's about having attained a sense of happiness as your emotional baseline without fear, because you no longer identify with your emotions any more than you do your thoughts. As long as we stay wrapped up in all of our emotional baggage, we are incapable of living fully engaged. We have to let that go. We have to become free. You'll also learn how to turn the mind on when you need to use it and turn it off when you no longer need to use it, living much more of your life free of mental activity and enjoying the connection to your essence instead of the mind. In order to live fully engaged, you have to be tuned into the universe. An interesting aspect about living fully engaged can be understood by examining the idea of comfort zones. Because when you are living fully engaged, in order to live fully engaged, one of the states you should have attained is the ability to not only step outside of your comfort zone, but in fact, have your mind so it has reached a point where it doesn't even bother to create a comfort zone for you anymore. Yes, your comfort zone is created by your own mind. And when we can step away from that, when we have broken free from that prison, that's when we are truly free of this type of mental cycle. And in order to live fully engaged, we can no longer be enslaved by these mental cycles and patterns. Living fully engaged does not mean that we have to live in poverty. You don't have to be poor and deny yourself basic things in life or even great things in life in order to be humble and spiritual. That's kind of a organized religion type of belief, right? A lot of Christians have this type of belief. Some don't, but some do. And that really doesn't apply to what I'm talking about here as far as living fully engaged. You can be very spiritual while enjoying some of the finer things in life. Why? Because you are not attached to them. If you have them, you have that experience and you enjoy them to the fullest with a heart filled with gratitude for that experience. If you don't have them, you enjoy the experience that you are having with every bit as much enthusiasm and gratitude. And it is through this that we begin to see the true power of balance and having balance in our life. One can enjoy certain material things and great experiences while balancing it with daily meditation and other spiritual practices. You can have both. This mindset that you have to live in rags and give much of your money to the church or whatever organization in order to be spiritual is nothing more than conditioning forced upon people to keep them down, to keep them in poverty, to keep them uneducated as to the way things really work in the world. When you're poverty-stricken, it's difficult to do anything with mindfulness, awakening, or anything spiritual, or even become mindful because you're concerned with your basic needs like food and shelter. Now, take a moment and think about this. Think of this through. Why is this conditioning being incorporated into so many religions then? Right? I'll let you come to your own conclusions. Now, it may be possible that the real intention behind this type of idea, this type of teaching, was to make sure people didn't succumb to greed and become attached to material things, which we can all agree are very good ideas. However, this doesn't seem to be the way people focus on it, nor does it seem to be the way that it is taught to them. So let's look at something very practical here and something that I talk about a lot. Let's look at quality of food. Okay? So are we going to be more spiritual, more religious, closer to the universe or God or whatever you want to call it, because we skimp on the quality of our food, because we eat lesser foods, cheaper foods, junk foods, or whatever? Is it somehow wrong to buy high-quality foods, to be able to spend more money on the food that we take and pay attention to what we put into our bodies? I don't think so. Which one of those helps your health? Which one of those allows you to have a healthy mind and body? See, sometimes something more expensive, it isn't about indulging. It's about being able to have a higher quality that you incorporate into your life, in this case, into your body. Yet at the same time, are you going to be able to enjoy it more? Well, my experience is yes, you will, because it tastes better. And you just feel better because you know it's such better quality, that it's better for you. And I find it interesting that most of the higher level of foods, even if we take something like caviar, which is considered to be fairly extravagant in certain countries like the U.S., and it is extremely nutritious. Yet I know people who feel guilty if they allow themselves to engage in something like enjoying some caviar. So then one must ask themselves, where is that guilt coming from? Why? Is it self-imposed? Is it conditioned? Why do you feel that? And is not eating that going to make you more spiritual or less spiritual? No, of course not. But the nutrition of it is going to allow you to have a healthy body, which is necessary to engage the practices of spirituality. And it's going to offer you the potential of a very enjoyable experience. It's the same. How does having, say, a nice car prevent me from being spiritual, or attaining mindfulness, or attaining awakening? It doesn't. Unless I neglect to engage in the practices that allow me to attain such things as mindfulness and awakening. Because at the very heart of living fully engaged are those practices. Without engaging those practices daily, we have no chance of living fully engaged. And the more that we do interact with these practices, the more we will live fully engaged, and the more we will become capable of truly living life to the fullest. Now, I'm not saying you have to run out and buy a fancy car or eat caviar or something. Don't misunderstand me. But if you have the means, those things do not make you less spiritual. The problem arises when we become consumed with chasing money, fame, power, material items, and we neglect those practices that truly allow us to live fully engaged. So just to recap, when I refer to living fully engaged, I am referring to a state of being where you have attained mindfulness and you are in the process of, or maybe you have, attained awakening. And from that state, you have a higher sense of perception. You're living with a direct connection to your essence, to your conscious awareness. You are interacting with and experiencing life through the act of experiencing of the conscious awareness instead of your mind. And when you do this is an awakening of its own, because when you attain the state like mindfulness, just the way you see things changes. The way you perceive everything changes. Life becomes so much more dynamic and powerful and exciting. And it's really not based on anything more than the fact that you are experiencing through conscious awareness. Helping others to reach this state where they are capable of living in authentically so, the idea of a fully engaged life has been the purpose of my book, of my ebook, of all of these podcasts, of everything that I have done and everything I am doing right now. And it is my wish that some of these things can help you in whatever way, even if the impact is very small, to start living life to the fullest and to go into the ability of living fully engaged. Believe me when I say it is so well worth the effort. You will be very glad you did. In the meantime, please make sure to visit me at www.expansionmastery.com. You can buy your autographed copy of Expansion Mastery there, as well as my newly revised and expanded ebook. And then, of course, we have some breath programs coming soon. I know. It's been a long time. Trust me, they're coming. Tweaking them. I want them to be very, very good. I want them to be extremely beneficial for you. And, of course, you can do all the social media stuff. Share, like, subscribe, all of that. Remember, you can visit my author page at Robert D. Bessler on Facebook, at least for now. And you can see the YouTube channel where all of these are featured, as well as some video podcasts I did many, many years ago. And in the meantime, my friends, I wish you the very best in your practices and your life. Take care.